Would you have ever imagined when the apes, who we believe, according to Darwin at least, were our forefathers? This is his picture. This is classically what Darwin proposed. The mirror, the ape is looking at himself, and that's the child. That's the human that he perceived. Would you have thought years and millions of years later that the ape would have thought that he would have migrated this human into the kind that we are today? But it's taken us 3 million years, and all we did was lose hair. So that's what probably the ape would have never ever thought, that we would have probably reached this kind of evolution ever. At that point of time, we didn't know apples were all about carbs, right? But had Eve not given Adam this apple, probably we would not have even existed. Forget Darwin's theory and whatever we want to call about it. It's the Venus of Willendorf. This is from 25,000 BC. Okay, it came in excavation. It's one of the most priceless statues today in the world. You could get millions and billions of dollars for this tiny little statue. It's made out of limestone, and what it says is, this is what they had at that point of time, and this is what they respected. So the woman of that point of time, when they created, was probably envisioned as this. They preferred their women to be buxom. They preferred their women to be heavy. Well, actually, when they listed most successful people all across the world, these were a few of the qualities that they actually picked up. Passion was one of the most important quality any successful man said that you need to have. Hard work. There's no beating around the bush. You can't stand on the stage without hard work. You have to excel in whatever you do with all your ideas and believe in your ideas. You should stick to time and believe in time and the essence that time brings about. You should be humble. That's the most important quality according to me. You should keep teaching because that is how the world is going to progress. You should keep giving, donating. And eventually I'll have a little controversial topic which I believe I've put on there because that's very relevant for today's times. I believe that there are different zones, okay? So the first is the soul of how you do well. I believe passion, hard work, and ideas are the soul of any person to do really well. The next comes the body. You have to have time and believe in time, and you should be humble. And that's where the soul intermingles with the body. But to be really, really successful, both these, the soul and the body, to intermingle with the environment around. And how you deal with the environment will actually make you very, very successful. So if all three are not in harmony, you'll probably miss out somewhere. You might be successful, but not at the pinnacle of your success. We always keep looking at one thing. What is it that is passionate about you? You could be passionate about anything, about driving your car. You could be passionate about reading. You could be passionate about anything. So the most important thing is to find your passion. The day you find your passion, which most of us don't really do in life, the day you find your passion, half your job is done, they believe. Then you go ahead and follow this passion. So you've achieved success because you found something that you love to do and you've gone ahead and actually followed it to its final goal. I believe that the actual true leaders are people who don't follow their passion, but they lead their passion. They go ahead and actually do what they believe in is what is correct. All right? So if you lead your passion, you're always going to do what you love. Then hard work. This is a saying that I've put up because I believe in this so truly. And I think that if you work that hard, you'll probably soon realize that someone you idle today, you could be idling Sachin Tendulkar, you could be idling Salman Khan, or whoever you have as your goal idol there, work so hard that someday he comes up and says, oh my God, I don't like this guy. You know, he's young and he's good and that's why I hate him. Okay, so that's how you're going to achieve results. Some people say she's lucky. You know, she's gone on to probably break Steffi Graf's record. How many of us know that she's put in millions and millions of hours hitting all those tennis balls all through her life? You ask any guy, they will always say, I've put in millions of hours which nobody has looked at. All the toil nobody recognizes. They actually recognize only what they see at the end. So sometimes young kids come up to me and say, sir, I want to be a surgeon just like you. And I say, what is it that drives you to be a surgeon? Oh, I want to travel like you. Actually, that's absolutely wrong. Because the day you want to be a surgeon is the day you want to serve. The day you think you want to be a surgeon because you want to earn money, you've gone wrong. You've already gone wrong. If you have it in you to serve people, that's the day you become a really, truly good surgeon. That's what it is. You have to put in hours and hours. You know, I used to be like a young kid like some of you guys right now. And I was in Nair Hospital and JJ. And I used to have my friends who used to come over and use my hostel room with their girlfriends, because that's where what they needed me for. Because I used to be sitting in the wards trying to save somebody's life. And it was quite funny, because I used to be slogging away, and they would say, "Oh, you smell so bad. You've come from the wards, looks like." And they would be getting ready with their cologne, their perfume, and everything to go for a party. And I used to keep wondering, oh my God, look at me, just struggling. In fact, the first time I joined residency program in Nayar Hospital, and I went home after, I remember this very clearly, because I was playing for Bombay Under-19 in cricket. And I got into medicine, and I kind of left cricket because I took the easier option out. I thought I wasn't as great as Sachin, so might as well go and play, learn medicine. And I had gone to Singapore to play some six-a-side tournament, and I came back with this fashionable jeans and shoes and everything, and I was so excited with this nice shirt and everything. And I went into work, my first day as a resident, as a surgical resident in Nayar Hospital. And the first thing, my registrar saw me and said, "What the hell are you so dressed up for? What are you here for? You've got to go, get your ass ready and start working out over here." And that was the last time I actually realized how difficult surgery was. For the next 3 months, I was collecting urine samples, stool samples. I was collecting blood every day, and everybody thought this is glorified, right? As a surgeon, you're the glorious guy. You're the big guy who everybody looks to. So when you actually have to face reality, I went home after 3 months, the first night in the evening. I was 2 shades darker. I had lost 10 kilos of weight, and my mom almost fainted when she saw me. But that was true surgical residency. So I believe that the harder I work, the luckier I get. And that one mantra, please keep it with you, because please do very well after that. I believe that if you have an idea, and most successful people, be it college dropouts like Steve Jobs, be it Microsoft chairmen or whoever, they've always got one idea. And that idea is what they've stuck to. So devote yourself to your idea, because it's your idea, it's your dream. Don't listen to people who ridicule you. It might be a stupid idea like making dustbins which are different and which are more healthy. You could make enormous amounts of money out of that. And the good thing is you'll be successful, you'll make money, but also you'll be happy. Because eventually, if you don't make a success, at least you've done what you've been happy with. All right? So don't let anybody ridicule you or your ideas. Because nobody rises suddenly in this world, not even the sun. So everybody needs to take small steps to rise up in life. You might not see those steps or the hard work that has been in, but all is there. I believe as a surgeon that impossible in the very world is I am possible. Okay? So please don't think of impossible as something that you couldn't do, because that's what losers say. Oh, this was impossible, this was difficult, I couldn't do it. Please don't go down that path, because the day you say that everything is possible, I can do it, then you'll always remember that there's something that we are doing today. I have probably never spoken at Yellow Talks before, and I probably could have been having stage fright or something of that sort. But everything is possible. And just because it's not done before, that doesn't mean you can't do it again. It's like this person you've seen. A lot of you all recognize this guy, right? Now, 2 months back, we landed up operating on him. 5 years back, he's been chasing me that, please, 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 doc, I'm very scared, I'm very scared. Can you imagine 200 plus kilos? You could do surgery to make this guy reduce, and you'll probably see him a year or so later, maybe weighing less than 100 kilos. Just through one tiny cut in his navel. That's what we do. Surgery today has advanced to that point that we can operate on you just through one tiny little cut in your navel. And a 200 kg guy over a year will probably become 100 kgs without any real this thing. If at one point in time you told someone 10 years back that you think this is possible, they would have laughed at you and said, go walk. Today, surgery has all moved that way. Today, we've got scarless surgery, wherein we put in a tube through your mouth and remove your gallbladder through your stomach. So it's things which are unheard of, which are being possible today. Today, I can sit here having a cup of coffee and actually operate someone in France. And that's how surgery has moved. So everything which we could not have ever thought of, today we can actually monitor your heart, pulse, BP through one tiny subdermal patch. It can be just like a gel put into your skin, and I can monitor all that sitting on my computer or my iPhone at home. That's how technology is. I believe you need to excel in whatever you do, because if you're happy with not reaching the clouds or even beyond the clouds, then you'll probably settle at much lower. So I believe that most successful people excel at whatever they do, even if it's like reading properly or writing properly. If you can just make your handwriting look that much more neater, or take up something else, whatever you love, you need to do that much better and better, because without excellence, there's almost no end of the road. They say that when there is a will, there's always a way. In fact, I'll tell you the story, okay? There's this patient, an old guy, who came to us, and he was really, really critical. And the whole family was against the surgery, and everybody said, oh, he's too old, he might die, doc, what do you think? I said, theoretically, we can save him. Practically, the chances look slim. But the old man said, doc, please try your best and try and save me. So I said, I told his son, you know, he's got a will. And where there's a will, there's a way. You know what the son actually came and told me? Doc, if my father's got a will, make sure I'm on it. So when you go to a hospital, you see these very busy-looking doctors with white aprons and stuff like that, or with a stethoscope around their neck and stuff like that, looking very, very studious, okay, maybe with a little paunch and thick-set glasses and eyes. But you'd see some people who are walking around in jeans, or with almost nothing, with Keds on them, but looking like as if they own the place. Well, actually, those are the surgeons in the breed. They are the guys who actually have the power with a knife, because you are giving them the power. Every surgeon, you tell them, okay, guys, look here, I'm paying you to cut me to make sure that I go back home alive. How often do you pay people to cut themselves? Okay? But that's how surgeons are. And that's why it's so difficult to stay away from this Oedipus complex or the God complex. Today, as a surgeon, when you're operating inside, the family, the relatives are all praying outside. And all they're praying to is making sure that the guy who's cutting their relative inside does a great job. So it's very, very difficult to stay away from believing that you're God. Because you might actually feel, oh my God, I'm so great. I can actually go and cut this guy. I can put his heart there, I can put his lung there, and I can do everything possible. So I'm God. Okay, but it just takes a matter of seconds to become from a hero to a zero. And there's no one better than a surgeon to tell you that. Trust me. Because you can go out and tell the relatives, I've done a brilliant job. I've managed to save your father, your mother, whoever, because it was a really, really difficult job. And unfortunately, you might just go inside and the anesthetist might say he had a myocardial infarct and has just died. And that's it. The relatives who have thought that you were a hero suddenly made you look like a total zero. And then you have all those kinds of litigations and everything else that comes around. Because everybody else has a best doctor who they would have rather gone to than the best guy who they've already gone to. So that's how medical life is. It is full of travesties. And it's never fun. We always say that the best things are never reserved for the surgeons. Never have an ego, because I believe that the bigger your ego, because big egos are shields for empty space behind. So the day you have an ego, you'll probably fail. Because Lao Tzu, the guy who wrote The Art of War, actually said, mastering others is strength, okay, you're strong. But mastering yourself is true power. And you know, Winston Churchill had once said that mediocrity can be handled by anybody and everybody. You want to see the true character of any person, give them power. The moment you are powerful, you'll actually come to know who you truly are. Because then you can do whatever you feel like. And I believe it's a very, very fine line that divides confidence from arrogance. And that's called humility. So you want to be confident, you should have a slight ego, but don't let it go to that size that you become arrogant, because then you'll fall. Because nobody has stood the test of time, not these massive creatures, okay? So time has a deal on everybody. You look at the graveyards, all those people, rulers, kings, emperors, people powerful, with so much money, they're still dead. And all they have reserved for themselves is a small piece of land, if you were buried. So time, I believe that when you don't have quality of time, or when you don't believe in time, you always will end up messing out. Because one thing that you must remember is I've seen people who are just about to die, just crying out and saying, Doc, please give me one more month to live. Please try your best. Please, please. They're dying as if they've never lived before. It's a real sad story. And when they live, they pretend as if they've never lived. Please live every single moment as if it were your last, because someday it will truly happen. And I've seen this really. So please don't waste time. Spend time with your family. Spend time with your loved ones. Spend time with what you love, your passions. Go out swimming, cycling, kayaking, scuba diving, whatever you want. Do it now, because tomorrow might be just too late. Then about teaching, quite often amongst surgeons we believe, oh, don't teach the younger guys. You know why? Because he'll learn your skill and he'll become better than you. Well, actually, do the birds actually ever think that way? Because if they depend on, rather than themselves, on anybody else, that would be the end of their flight, right? Because if the branch were to break and they didn't depend on its wings, it would completely collapse. So please understand that God-given skill is all yours. You cannot ever lose it if you've taught somebody. And today, if I don't teach my juniors, who is going to operate on me someday when I'm sick? So the fun thing that you learn again from the medical field is keep teaching. And we always do. We teach our youngsters. And one thing that will never take away is you can have lots of money, but you'll never ever lose respect for your teacher. That stands above board. I love to support, encourage all the younger kids, because I believe that whoever's trying to better themselves, you must keep pushing them, because they believe in themselves, and someday they'll be successful. We've seen these guys, okay? And do you think these guys are really successful only because they're really super rich businessmen? Today we know of them because there are many more. I don't think Aziz Premji is the richest man in India. We know who's the richest man in India. But he probably doesn't donate as much as Aziz Premji. And that's why we all love Aziz Premji. Much, much more. Bill Gates, again, we love him for the amount he donates. He's donated so much to the charities in India. Then we know this man. We can have a lot of stories spoken about him. But the one thing is he's got truly a golden heart. We do know through his Being Human Foundation that he donates much, much more than we can even think of. I keep going down back to Rajasthan and the interiors of Gujarat to keep doing surgeries. So it's not as if I cut down on the prices of my surgeries back home, but I will always give back. It gives me more pleasure to actually go and operate throughout the night on some of these patients. For the last few years, we've been going to Rajasthan. We do around 100 surgeries in 2 days. And this is something controversial. And I thought I should touch this because I'm a surgeon. As a doctor and as a surgeon, I can tell you truly, truly, that not one religion in the world, be it whether it's Christianity, whether it's Islam, whether it's Hinduism, whether Jainism, Buddhism, whatever you have, can claim benefit to saving more lives than the other religion. We have people, we never look at who we operate on. You never choose a surgeon because he belongs to a particular religion. So please don't fight just because of religion. Don't say that my God is greater than yours, because that's not true. That can never be true. There's one. The one person we look up to. And I'm telling you, I'm the living example. People have gone to mandirs, masjids, churches. When they're coming to die, they suddenly think of God. And they go to every known God possible, but still the patient doesn't live. All right? So please believe in religion, but please don't fight because of religion. Like, I want to send you with this one thought. There's this poem written about racism and about a black African kid who's an 8-year-old kid who wrote this poem. Please believe in what you do. Please believe in yourself first and most. Please fight against these religious zealots who keep trying to divide our country and furthermore. Because today we need stars to shine, and there is darkness in the world. There's enough and more darkness, and stars cannot shine without darkness. Thank you so much.